Hey everyone, before we get started with episode 7 here, I wanted to reiterate the mission of the podcast. It's really about getting business owners and professionals who are out there doing cool things in the community and from all different kind of industries to talk about their path in business, what they're doing today, and provide information and resources for young and up-and-coming professionals to get going and started in the business world. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy episode 7 with Michael Bonasso. We'll get started here in 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, welcome to the Professional People Podcast. Your host, Dan Dietrich from TDA Insurance in Walled Lake. And another very special guest on this week, a good friend of mine, Michael Bonasso. Me and Michael have been, we went to school together from kindergarten to 8th grade. And then we've stayed in touch since then, and Michael's doing some really cool things over at WaterLogic USA. So, Mike, thanks for coming on, man. Why don't you tell everyone about what WaterLogic is doing, what you're doing over there.
Yeah, WaterLogic is actually a global company. So we produce, manufacture, sell self-sanitizing water coolers, as well as coffee machines and ice machines. But right now, with everything going on, we're really getting a lot of attention on our self-sanitizing water coolers that use UV light technology, antimicrobial coatings, and whatnot. We'll get into that soon, but that's really a high-level view of what we're doing right now.
Yeah, and you're doing sales for them over there, correct?
Yeah, yep. I started back in, let's see here, the end of February. Went down to our new headquarters in Dallas to do some training. And that was right like the week before COVID got real bad. So it's been interesting starting off.
What a time to start a new job, eh?
It's a crazy time to start a new job, especially in sales, where a lot of it is, going out and shaking hands and meeting people. It feels strange for someone like you and I, people like you and I who are very personable and want to go up and shake hands and meet people, having to ask, do you mind shaking hands right now?
Wave through the screen on Zoom.
Yeah, it's got a kind of wave. It's weird, but we're adapting for sure.
Well, that's funny, man. Well, just so everyone knows, TDA actually is part of, us trying to adapt to the changing times with COVID and everything. We actually purchased one of the WaterLogic coolers, and the staff has absolutely loved it. I got my nice ice cold water right here. I just filled up before we hopped on. Mike, can you get into a little bit of the technology and what separates WaterLogic from your average everyday cooler?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a pretty substantial line of products, different water coolers that we, like I said, manufacture ourselves in Dallas and distribute to our clients. The one that you guys have is our WL2, and the technology that's on that one specifically is our firewall technology, which is the use of UVC lighting, which is being used very broadly right now. It's been used for years and years and years for sanitization purposes, and we've been using it for quite a long time ourselves before COVID hit, before anything like this has been on the radar. It's not certified against COVID yet. It's too early to even test against it. So you're not going to find anyone who's certified against COVID, but it is certified to be effective against the H1N1 virus. Various different types of bacteria, microbes, cysts, and the same goes for our BioCoat technology that's actually baked into the plastic to help mitigate the risk of cross contamination on all the touch points of the machine. So those two things combined, you're not going to find another machine. You might find another machine from another company that is like that, but we probably manufactured and sold it to them. So that's really the biggest difference, is we're the only ones doing this right now.
That's cool. And can you talk more about, we were using tap water before, and you can distinctly taste the difference in the water from when we started using your guys' cooler. How is that possible? What's going on in there to make that happen?
Yeah, the big difference with the taste of the water, that we actually have a commercial grade filtration system. It's a 3-step filtration system that takes out all the solids from your water. Being in Metro Detroit, being close to Flint, and having some very similar situations pop up all around the area, it's a hot button issue for sure. So our filters are able to remove, and by the way, we manufacture our own filters as well, but they're able to remove all your lead, your rust, the bits of metal from the aging infrastructure, which is, all throughout the state and all throughout the country, really. But it really gets rid of all those items and filters it down to where it's pure as it can possibly be.
Yeah, I can taste the difference. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And not to mention, the chlorine and the chloramines that you find in your water. That's really the biggest thing that you can taste. Sometimes if the water is coming out of your faucet, sometimes it actually smells like a pool. And treatment facilities put that in there to kill off living, bacteria and things that can get into the water from the treatment facility to your home. But chlorine is a known carcinogen, when it's consumed. So we get all that out of there as well. And that's what we use the UVC lighting to further purify it, up to 99.9999% pure water.
I'll take it. Not 100, but I'll take it.
It's just about 100.
So, Mike, you've been dealing with pretty much business owners on an everyday basis, right? And what have you seen other than, on the water side of things? What have you seen and heard from business owners that they're doing right now to adapt to the changing times with COVID and everything?
Yeah, a lot of businesses, you're going to see them providing, PPE, personal protective equipment to their employees, as well as installing a lot of plastic shields and whatnot. Aside from that, though, with the pandemic going on, a lot of people are switching to touchless dispensers. There are those drinking fountains where you put your bottle up to it and it fills it right up. While they are touchless, there's still a great risk for cross contamination. So I've talked to some people who have been in conversations with companies that provide those types of coolers or types of drinking fountains, and a lot of the same risks are associated with those. The bacteria can splash back up. The spigot's still exposed. You can see that white buildup. It's all bacteria around the dispensing point. So a lot of people are trying to get into those. I'm actually working with someone right now who is canceling their order completely and going with WaterLogic because we're able to really fill in those gaps with all the risks that are associated. And also on top of that, just recently, we actually are, not even recently, in the process right now of currently releasing a touchless option, which is actually in the form of foot pedals for a few of our machines. So we can offer a touchless option now as well, if that's something that people are really wanting to go for.
That's awesome. But, you were talking about that UV light technology and the whole surface is pretty much being cleaned anyways, even on the non-touchless ones that you guys carry.
Absolutely. The UV light is actually inside the machine, and it hits every single point of the water before it's dispensed, and you can actually see the light. You can probably speak to this. You can see the light glowing out of the machine as you dispense it, right?
Yeah, I love filling up my water in the dark. I feel like I'm in Star
Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you can be confident though that light is purifying your water up until the point that it's actually in your glass, and then the entire outside surface of the machine has the silver ion technology BioCoat baked into it. So it's not like it's a coating that can rub off or be wiped off or wear off over time. It's in there, for the life of the machine, and that is what helps mitigate that risk of cross contamination.
Yeah, that seems like a safe bet, especially with everything going on right now. And
yeah,
people, come back to the workplace. I know we're thankfully back in the office and back with the TDA family, and that makes me happy. But keeping our distance. But as these larger companies and businesses start to move back, there's a much greater risk with everything going on. And I think water is something that people drink throughout the day, and if you have a lot of staff, that's something you need to be aware of. And from an insurance perspective, I'm thinking if someone in my office gets COVID because of my lack of upkeep or cleaning, that's a big exposure for me. And that could be
Yeah.
something new that comes up in a claim or something like that. So this is something business owners need to be thinking about. And, the process for us when we went to WaterLogic, super easy. You handled setting everything up for us. And the guys came out, took a drinking fountain out for us and just put it right in, sitting pretty. Can you speak a little bit about, how that process, if someone wanted to pursue, upgrading their water cooler, how would that work with WaterLogic, and kind of walk them through that?
Yeah, absolutely. The first step really is getting in touch with myself. If you're in the Metro Detroit area, I would love to talk to you and tell you about what we have to offer. It's really tough to disperse information about our products because we have so many different options, and not, you know, uh, every company's different, right? So the WL2 that you have might not be a good fit for, XYZ insurance company, right? So first and foremost, I'd love to get a chance to speak with someone, whoever's making this kind of decision, tell them about what our products are, what the benefits are, and then of course, ideally, I'd like to take a look around and see, what their office setup is. But as you know, it works just as well over video chat, over remote meeting. So really, once we have the chance to talk, it's 100%. A business owner's decision to make this change. And you can speak to this as well. Being in insurance and being so focused on health and safety on a daily basis, the way that I try to explain these machines to people is it's really an added health and safety benefit for your employees. It's not just a drinking fountain. It's not just a water cooler. It's more than that because of what it offers on a daily basis. So it's just another layer of protection. And again, like I said, nothing is certified against COVID right now, but having something like this in your office is certainly a step in the right direction to promoting a healthier environment for your employees and for your clients.
I totally agree, and it's something that from going from the tap water to this new sweet water system, it's something that staff appreciates too, and that's equally as important. Their health and safety, but also just how they feel when they come back into the office after being at home.
Yeah.
A lot of people like working from home, but what kind of benefits can you add into making the workplace a better place for your employees? And I think upgrading the water that everyone at least should be drinking every day
Yeah.
is a
Well,
is a
and
big step, and it's something that will be used for sure. So you don't have to worry about it not being
oh
used,
yeah,
because no one even uses a sink for us anymore. Hot
yeah.
water, cold water, we're going to the cooler.
You get your money's worth. That's what it comes down to. It's going to be used on a daily basis. And the crazy thing is that it's just water. Like it's not a huge decision to make. It's just drinking water. But that in mind, it can seriously impact the way that your employees work on a daily basis, and obviously, it's going to safeguard their health. So you'll be overall more productive as a business. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll probably drop my contact information in the post of this, so I don't want to go too crazy and start talking about it here. But that'll be the best way for people to reach out to me for sure.
And so, I guess the second piece of that is, if they do decide to reach out and go with you, I'm familiar with it, but what's the installation process working with one of your service tech guys, to get the cooler in? We have the option. We pretty much put it anywhere, you said, and I believe that's the case
Exactly.
for most people.
Yeah. Yeah. So once we have a chance to talk and once you make that decision to move forward, we get it to our dispatch folks, and I monitor the process the entire time. I'm getting updates constantly and reaching out constantly to make sure that everything is moving forward. Um, you'll be contacted to schedule a specific day and time for our guys to come in, and our techs are employed directly by WaterLogic. So you're not going to get a third party installer coming in. These are people that are employed by us, trained by us on our machines exclusively. So you can be confident that they're going to be doing great work for you. Um, as far as actually installing the machine, like Dan said, like you said rather, uh, You can. I'm talking. I feel like I'm talking to someone.
Talking to an audience, but you're just talking to me, man.
Yeah, I feel like I'm talking to an audience. You can have the cooler placed anywhere, or we can have a drinking fountain removed for you. We can take out your old water cooler. We can run line from anywhere in the building as long as there's a water source somewhere in the building. We can get that cooler set up wherever you want. So it's very, very flexible, and our techs definitely will work with you on we'll work with folks on that for sure.
Yeah, it was a super simple process, honestly,
Yeah.
from a buyer's perspective.
Yeah.
So, Mike, I think that your product's great, but the second part I wanted to get into with this podcast, so I want to hear more about, what you're doing as a younger professional and try to shed some light and some knowledge on, how you've been able to get into businesses as a new guy starting out in a new job in a challenging environment. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the way that I found this opportunity was interesting and I think unique for today's workforce. I had been looking online, the typical looking at LinkedIn, looking at Glassdoor and what's the other one? Um, Whatever it is, all those different job sites out there. I was constantly looking at job boards, couldn't find anything. I did a bunch of interviews, sent out a bunch of applications, and I ended up going to this job fair in Livonia. I was by far the youngest person there. I don't think it's very common for young people to find themselves in a job fair location for whatever reason. I don't know why, because it's awesome. You can get yourself right in front of an employer. And I met who is my manager today, Paul Might, and one of our regional managers, Tommy Modica, and they were just fantastic from the get-go. So really, I think the message there is putting yourself out there is really important. Whether it's finding a new job when you've graduated college or left a previous position, whatever it is, putting yourself out there is absolutely imperative. And don't be nervous to go to a job fair or something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone maybe. Um, that's number one. And just on that same kind of note, meeting people and building your network is hands down, the most important thing when you're getting started. People always talk about, it's all about who you know. It's a little cheesy, and people don't always listen to that, but there's a fair amount of truth in that. And the more people you know, the larger your network is. The better off you'll be. It's something I like to live by is your network is your net worth. So that's a very, very important thing to keep in mind for sure.
Yeah, and to talk about your first point, getting yourself out there, and even going back to earlier when we were talking, when you talk about shaking hands, I've known you since you were a little kid, and you were the first one who got
Little
that.
kid.
Yeah, little kid. But you were the first one who really, grasped that concept from a young age. You were always the first one to be talking to the parents when they came in the classroom or at their football practice. They would be over here. There's Mike over with the parents. But that shows a lot, and I think speaks to you that you picked that up as a young man, and as you keep growing, and it's still prevalent for you. I think that's awesome, man.
That's where I'm most comfortable is talking to people and meeting new people, especially. Um, my fiance Erin can't stand it because when it seems like whenever we're out grocery shopping, Target, wherever, I always see someone that I know. And my dad's the same way, and my mom and Erin are on the same page with that. They're already done with that. So, uh, but
Well,
I don't mind it. I love it.
Well, since you mentioned your dad, we should probably share with the loyal listeners.
Yeah.
Michael's dad was actually my football coach growing up, and my dad was his assistant coach. So our dads were the coaches of our grade school football team, and they meant a
Yeah.
lot to us. And they shed a lot of knowledge on us as young men. I know one quote from your dad is we had a big game, and he goes, "You know what, boys? They wake up every morning, take a piss, and put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do. And I mean, that's stuck with me forever because
Yeah.
you don't need to be nervous, like you're saying, to go out and talk to people. Everyone's just a normal human being, just like you and I. And it's just finding something that you can connect to them with and be genuinely interested and create conversation about that is ultimately the first stepping stone to building that relationship.
Yeah.
How is
Absolutely. No,
how about you? Any good one-liners from the old coaching staff over there at Saros?
oh, geez. My dad, so it's funny because my dad coached obviously at Saros. Before that, he coached for the Farmington Rockets, which is, we were in third grade.
I was the
So that's
Gators,
the first,
so I didn't have him back then.
gotcha. Okay. Another conversation another day. But he was my coach from third grade through high school. He coached at Brother Rice also. So I was very fortunate to have him there, kind of by my side throughout my entire football career, if you will. But it goes beyond football, and you know that. My dad, your dad, they're both great men, and their priorities are, you know, set so perfectly. It's all about family. It's all about, making sure that you can instill um, good practices, good traits, good habits in their kids and their family. Um, so I lean on my dad so much still. As I'm getting off and getting in the world, um, he's very very important to me, and he I don't like to admit it, but he still knows a hell of a lot more than I do about most things. Um, he he probably wouldn't think that I think that, but I know that for sure. So I'm very fortunate to have a dad like that, and you're very fortunate to have a dad uh, like your dad. Um,
We're
but
both very fortunate that we got to experience those knuckleheads together too.
oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. I think one of the big things that I have taken from my dad. It's not necessarily a quote, but um, he's always made sure that I knew, that my brother knows, my sister knows, how important it is to just keep going no matter what. Um, One thing, yeah, here actually is a quote. One thing that he says to me that his father says to him um, is, "Don't worry about the mule, just keep loading the cart." Just keep stacking it on. And for me, that's always resonated because when you get crazy busy, and you know this, when you get crazy busy and you feel like you just can't move at all, you can't move forward, you can't take that next step. Um, it is what it is. Keep loading the cart. You're going to keep moving it. You're going to get to your destination. That's one of those weird quotes where you can kind of take it in a few different ways. But for me, it's always just been about keep moving forward. Never be stagnant, and you'll find success.
Yeah, it's a great Winston Churchill quote and a great Rodney Atkins song is if you're going through hell, keep on going.
Keep on going. That's great. That's great.
So, so Mike, as we start to, wrap this up, I think that's awesome about our dads and being able to get them incorporated in part of this podcast. It was something I really wanted to hit on. But I want to get back to, being a younger professional. How have you, especially during this time, with social distancing, COVID, how have you used technology in the sales realm to help you get in front of business owners to, adapt to the changing times?
Yeah, I am addicted to LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, and I try to put out a lot of different posts on there. So that's one way to get a really broad um, audience, if you will. Um, and we actually have been instituting our virtual appointments. So we've been able to actually do virtual presentations and do the same slideshows that we would go through if I was sitting right in front of you. And we've been actually building on that. So it's not even just me; it's our company as a whole is really um, putting the effort forward to make sure that we as a sales team have all the tools that we need. Some people use, some of those tools more than others. I like to think that I'm really on top of it as far as technology goes. So really, those virtual appointments, jumping on the phone, being on the phone, it seems like it's pretty straightforward, but you wouldn't believe how much business you can actually generate just by making calls, sitting down and making phone calls to business owners. All you got to do is get them on the phone. And once you can do that, you can really convey who you are, what you're about, and what your company's about pretty easily. So that's another key thing I would say.
Have you seen any hurdles that you've had to face because you're a young professional?
My sales team, I think the people that I work with have a lot more experience than I do in the sales world, if you will. They're all absolutely incredible and very helpful. Sometimes I feel like I'm relatively inexperienced, but I've been learning an awful lot from them, from my manager. But out in the field, it's all about how you present yourself. If I were to come across as nervous, I would see that as probably a hurdle. But me, I'm pretty comfortable in front of people, generally speaking. So as long as I can get out there and be confident, which at this point, being with the company for as long as I have been, just a few months now, I feel pretty confident in all the information you kind of got to absorb. So I don't think I have any specific hurdles probably to mention.
Yeah, I think like we were talking about before, I've known you since you were a young big man. but but like like you said, you're very comfortable, and I think it just comes from the confidence of that you've gone out there and done it so many times. And I think if anyone is struggling out there with going out and making cold calls or being nervous about getting in front of business owners or calling for whoever you might need to call for your job, it takes practice no matter what you're doing. So the best way to do it is just get started and start packing on the mule.
There you go. Yeah, keep loading that cart, man. That's it. And it's just consistency, because you could go out and have a great day of prospecting, meeting people, calling, whatever it is. But if you don't keep doing it, it doesn't make a difference. Your pipeline will be empty within a week. So you got to be consistent, and you got to keep moving forward with everything that you're doing, as far as generating new business and meeting people.
Yeah, and I wanted to build off that too because we were talking about social media, and you got to be consistent there too. And that's something I see way too much. Is people say, "Oh, I tried to do a Facebook post and it didn't work." Well, it's Facebook isn't about so much. What I've learned is social media marketing. It's not so much about, yeah, I want to put this out, click here, buy. It's you're building a brand, you're building a
Yes.
following. You need to build trust with these people. And that's the way to do that these days is using social media without having to, meet 20 times in person. You could build trust just by having someone following you and being connected on social media. But they're never going to know who you are if you don't post on a consistent basis.
Absolutely. And like you said about the brand building, for me, social media is definitely about brand building, but about personal brand building, more so, I would say. That what you were just mentioning is if someone follows you on social media, on LinkedIn specifically, they're likely to trust you a lot more as long as you're consistently posting and putting content out there, and being on their feed all the time. Not to an annoying extent, because there are plenty of pages that are doing that too much. But if you can keep your page consistent, put out interesting, good content that your followers are interested in, that's, like you said, a fantastic way to build trust, and just lay some groundwork for the relationship before you actually might meet somebody.
I think you really nailed the nail on the head there. And with with it's when people lose the authenticity of their social media and stuff is because they could post consistent, but it's not genuine and it's not authentic. and that's when it gets annoying. So
Yeah.
I think that's the big builder off of that is be consistent, but like you said, be entertaining to your audience. Try to put cool story out here. That's what this podcast is all about. I just want to get cool people who are doing cool things in the community and get the word out there about them because we can all learn from each other. And if you're sharing other people's stories and not just posting about yourself, I think that speaks way more volumes about who you are than just trying to be all me.
Absolutely. No, and that's very clear with what you're trying to do here. Like I think I told you before, I've been following the podcast since you started doing it, and it's a great bit of content, one, but it's so much fun to do. It's not like it's work. I feel like I'm taking a break right now. I'm trying to talk to you a little bit about what I'm doing, talk about what you're doing, but it's fun to do, and it's so worthwhile, and the return on it can be just mammoth. If you're consistent and if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, like you obviously are. And again, I just can't tell you how much I appreciate you having me on here. It's a fantastic opportunity.
Well, I'm super pumped to have you on, man, and I think just I want to touch on it's so easy. It's so easy. How all we did is set up a Teams call and hit record. And I'm gonna edit it
Yeah,
up and post it in a couple days. Anybody can
yeah,
do that. Anybody can
yeah.
do that these days.
But
It's
most of it's done
free.
for you, right?
Yeah, it's free. You can record yourself with anyone, and then there's free platforms that you can edit and drop them to all the platforms, and then you just clip a recording, put it out there, and that's a super cool conversation rather than trying to spend hours writing an article or something. Do something you
Yeah.
want to do. Go have conversations you want to have. I've learned so much in the short amount of time doing this just by talking to people and hearing about what they're doing. And that makes me better because I try to incorporate the things that I like and put it into what I do on an everyday basis.
And it sets you apart. It sets you apart from the rest of the crowd. People do podcasts. Some of them are kind of hokey, kind of whatever, not very entertaining, and they just lull on. But what you're doing is certainly setting you apart, and I think you're going to see uh, some great things from this for sure.
Well, I appreciate that, Mike, and I appreciate you coming on, man. As we do with every end to the podcast, what is one tip for professional people that you have for us today?
Get out there and focus on your network. Build your network and build your personal brand before you try and um, build a business or something like that. That's the first step really is, well, whether it's building a business or building your own book of business, rather, you need to have a solid network. So focus on your network. Like I said before, your network is your net worth, and just try and take that with you.
Thanks for sharing, Mike. I appreciate you having on, man, and go out there and sell a bunch of water coolers for us, okay?
I'll do that. Thanks so much, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. And remember, keep it professional, people.